Chapter 25. Simon. Simon motioned to a bench along the side of the pond least visible to the house. It was sheltered on one side by a tall hedge. The other three sides were awash with the steel grey of morning. When he sat beside Cora, he swivelled to the side and put his hand to her cheek, guiding her face toward his. Their lips met, and he felt her lean into him as her hands reached around his neck, pulling him closer. A low moan escaped from him, and Cora's lips pressed firmer to his. Every wish in his heart linked to her. When she broke the kiss, Simon pecked her lips, then leaned barely away.
"Marry me. Let me love you every day."
Cora looked down and was silent. When she finally lifted her eyes to his, he saw unshed tears and a sad smile. His heart nearly stopped. Was she trying to find a way to reject his offer? He knew he wouldn't give up. He'd continue to court her for as long as it took. "I have a big truth to tell you. This seems like a good time." Cora swiped a tear from her cheek. "You don't know me." She stood, walking 2 steps away. When Simon made to stand, she pushed her hand toward him, and he stopped. He said,
"I know you, though it's true that there's so much more to learn."
He knew there would be new revelations every day, as there had been just hours ago. He had noticed her composure at the inn, her careful selection of words she told the constable, her detailed accounting of the events, and her satisfaction when the constable remarked on the skillful way Wetheridge was trussed up to the bed. Though he'd thought to save her, pride filled him that she could save herself. His mind returned to Cora's words.
"I'm asking you to let me discover new things about you for the rest of our lives."
She walked back and sat beside him again. "I mean, I'm not from here, or even from the America you know." Simon felt his eyebrows pull together. "I'm from a different time. A time in the future." Simon could see the resolve on her face, her eyes intently staring into his, almost daring him to believe. He couldn't. He must have misunderstood or heard her wrong.
"I'm sorry. What did you say?"
Cora leaned closer and repeated, "I was born more than 100 years in the future." Now it was Simon's turn to move. His chest thudded and his legs felt wooden. What was her purpose in telling this story? Was she a fraud? He couldn't believe it of her, yet she must wish him to think so. Why? "I grew up in Texas during the turn of the 21st century. We have carriages with something like the steam engines trains have instead of horses. We can talk to each other over wires, much like the telegraph, but we hear voices instead of static signals. Wait, you don't have that yet, do you?" Cora didn't wait for Simon to reply, but said, "Women are educated. Well, everyone is. They vote, own property, and live independently without stigma. And medicine. The advances are incredible, completely wiping out some diseases, giving people back their sight or hearing." She stood before him, her posture defeated. "I've hidden a very important part of me from you."
"Please stop."
Simon scooted as far away as the bench allowed and slumped with his hands on his knees. His heart was truly broken.
"I hadn't known that you were so strongly repulsed by my suit that you would make this fiction to scare me off, as if I were lucky to be rid of you."
He stood and bowed.
"It's been a long night, and no doubt you will wish to rest. May I walk you to the house?"
"I'm telling you the truth." She boldly met his eyes. Simon schooled his face and said nothing. She fought back tears, obviously determined not to fall apart in front of him. "I'll find my own way back." Her voice broke slightly.
"Good day."
Before he left, he turned back.
"My offer stands,"
he said with cold dignity. He would retain his honor even in this. Once inside, he called his family to his office. His mother and sisters, with rigid backs and stoic expressions, sat on the leather sofa and chairs. He stood from behind his desk and walked to the rug directly in front of the women.
"Mother, Georgia, Virginia. I am in earnest for you to understand my position. At no time will I consult you on the event of my marriage."
His mother began to sputter. "Surely," his voice raised.
"At no time. You are dismissed."
He kept to his office, writing letters, reviewing ledgers, planning improvements to the estate. Anything to keep him away from Cora and everyone else. His chest felt hollow. After Simon readied for dinner that evening, his butler delivered a small black box.
"The young lady asked that I put this into your hand only, along with this letter of directions for its use."
Simon took the items and shut his door. He sat on his bed, then broke the seal on the letter and began reading. "Dearest Simon, I must regain your confidence. It means my happiness for you to believe me." The opening words stung him. He wanted to drop the page and chase the sorrow he felt from his chest, but he was curious about Cora's message and read on. "This device is from my time. Please press your finger to the circle at the bottom to turn on the light. You'll see some small pictures. Press the one that looks like sheet music. When the picture changes, press the triangle. Hold the small grid of holes to your right ear." Simon did as the letter directed, and startled at the music emanating from the box. He held it close to his ear and listened, then threw it onto his bed. What was it? He reached for it again and hesitated. He picked it up. When he touched the bars that had replaced the triangle, the music stopped. He pressed the original circle, and the small pictures reappeared. Questions filled his mind as he turned it over again and again, listening and examining, pressing over the pictures and watching to see the results. He slipped it into his coat and turned the black box over and over in his pocket. This changed everything. He sat in the salon before dinner, waiting for Cora to come, which she did, early. He pulled the box from his coat pocket and held it out to Cora. "What did you think of it, Mr. Duke?" she asked, with a familiar tease to her voice. He shook his head regretfully, not taking his eyes off hers.
"I'm sorry."
"Don't be. I'm not crazy, at least relative to my confession. I'm not a witch, but many things in my time would seem magical to you." She looked up at him with dreamy eyes and took a step closer. "And I'm not trying to dodge a proposal from a handsome, kind-hearted man who is more amazing than any dream I've ever had." Simon lifted her hand to his lips. He kissed the back, then slowly removed the glove and kissed her wrist.
"Will you?"
he asked. The half-second before she answered was an eternity. She jumped into his arms. "Yes!" Her open smile set his pulse racing. He swept her, weightless, from the floor. The touch of her lips was a delirious sensation. This kiss was full of promises and a future together. Raising his head from hers, he gazed into her eyes. Then he kissed her neck and whispered into her ear,
"I can't wait until you're my Mrs. Duke."
They stood together in the salon as the other family members arrived. Simon announced their engagement before walking into dinner with Cora on his arm, first through the door.